Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tech Motoring. Today we are going to be reviewing this 2011 Mazda 6 Touring, and after that we're going to go over all the aftermarket options that were integrated into this car to bring it into the future. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. Now the 2011 Mazda 6 comes with a 2.5-liter inline 4-cylinder engine that produces about 170 horsepower and about 167 pounds of torque. Now that is matched up with a 5-speed automatic transmission and a front-wheel drive platform. So it has plenty of power when you need it in this mid-size sedan-sized car. This is a very reliable motor. This vehicle has almost 100,000 miles on it and almost zero maintenance has been done other than your typical oil changes. So I would have to say that this motor holds up very well. Now the trunk on the Mazda 6 is actually your average size trunk for a mid-size sedan. It has plenty of room. You have the cargo net holds on the sides in case you needed that cargo net. You do have the fold-down seats, the 40-60 split, that allows you to put some extra long things into this vehicle as well. Of course, you are limited by the height of your trunk opening. Compared to most mid-size sedans, this is about your average size trunk. And of course, underneath you do have your spare tire as well. Now here we are in the interior of the Mazda 6. Now we don't have many options on the Touring model. We have the leather-wrapped steering wheel, just basic cloth seats, power windows, power locks, power mirrors, of course, manual headlights. It does not have automatic headlights, and it also has standard wipers, which means it does not have the automatic rain-sensing wipers built in. It does have cruise control and does have Bluetooth in it by factory. It does have an aftermarket radio in there, which we'll go over later on. You do have your basic armrest console with a deep storage container in there, also an adjustable armrest. Now the Touring model does come with the info screen on it. Now this is just a standard LCD screen that gives you your miles per gallon, your range left on your tank, and so forth. Something you don't get in the standard model. Standard HVAC controls in here for your cooling and heating. It does not have climate control unless you go with the Grand Touring model. Now the space in this car is actually kind of nice. With plenty of leg room for the driver and passenger, the backseat can also easily accommodate 2 more adults. It is actually a very spacious car for 4 adults to go on long road trips. There's plenty of room back there, both width and length. So here we are now driving in the Mazda 6, and this is a very comfortable car to drive. I have personally driven this car many times on many long road trips, and honestly, it is very comfortable. Even with 100,000 miles on this car still drives like it's brand new, and it actually is very impressive. I think my only big gripe about this car is the fact that it's got a 5-speed automatic transmission in it. I think that the 6-speed would have been a lot better because it does feel a little bit bogged down in the lower RPMs, and having that extra gear would definitely balance out that ratio. So back in the early 2000s, Ford actually owned the majority of Mazda, and when Mazda was going through its roots at that time, it was definitely not the car that it could have been. And that being said, it definitely shows in the earlier models. Now in 2008 was when Ford had sold the majority of its shares of Mazda, and Mazda then became a mostly independent company at that point. And once that happened, things had significantly improved in the Mazda realm. And you can see that in today's Mazdas. They are much more sleek looking, nicer looking. The technology is there. It's up to par with all the other manufacturers. They definitely took their time to make the cars what they should have been. So now this being a 2011, you would think that this was pretty much all Mazda. However, you do see the Ford Motor Company logos all around on this car, which means that Ford was still producing a majority of the parts of these cars. So now take that as you will, but it still is a very good car to drive and to just have as your daily driver. Now, if you're looking into buying a used car, a Mazda 6 is very, very reliable. And also, they're fairly cheap. I mean, this car, you could probably find this for about $6,000 or $7,000 in great shape. And it still has a lot of life left in it. And like I was saying, this car is a car that I own. It's actually my wife's daily driver, and she loves this car. We've actually owned this car for 7 years, and it is now 9 years old. And having this car has been a privilege over those years because it has been so reliable and so easy to maintain that it's a struggle for me to get rid of it. So now here we are on the highway doing about 65, almost 70 miles an hour, and you can barely feel any of the road. The road is smooth. I mean, you could just see by the steering wheel. The steering wheel does not even move the slightest. And once again, this is still on the original struts. We are still at almost 100,000 miles, and this car still rides smoothly. Now, I wanted this video to not only show you about the Mazda 6 if you're in the market for a used vehicle. Now, you may remember from my earlier video, way back in the beginning, I was going to review older cars so you could see what you can plug into those cars for technology benefits. And this is a great example of that technology benefit. A new radio gives you the ability to have your satellite radio, you can have your USB ports to plug your phone in, Android Auto, Apple Carplay, a reverse camera. I mean, you can have it all just by really changing out the radio of your car. And really, nowadays, it's not that expensive to do something like that. I mean, you could probably pick up a radio with a 7-inch screen like this for maybe $300, reverse camera for less than $50, and then, I mean, if you wanted to do satellite, that's only like another $50 or so. Honestly, you can really save a lot of money just by upgrading your old car. So if you want a reverse camera in your car, you don't have to buy a new car for that. If you want satellite radio, I mean, you don't have to buy one of those satellite radio things that you have to stick somewhere on your dashboard, or you don't have to do that anymore. If you change your radio, you can actually do it nicely and cleanly. A lot of people like to have the USB ports so you can plug your phone in to not only charge it, but also to interface with the radio for music and whatnot. And the way that this is integrated into the car with these USB ports, it makes it clean, but it also makes it easy to get to. I mean, they're right there. You plug the cable in there and you can stick your phone in the cup holder or anywhere in the center console, really, and you have your interface into your radio. Now, of course, at 100,000 miles, they're not original tires or original brakes. They have all been replaced before. But you can definitely tell that the brake system on this car is good. Now, the pedal, yeah, it may have a little bit of a sponginess to it just because that was just the way they were. The newer Mazdas don't have quite the sponginess of that brake pedal, but it still is very easy to hit the brakes and to apply these brakes very hard if you need them. I have actually had to panic stop in this car once or twice before, and I can tell you for sure, it will stop very quickly. And once again, I probably have to reiterate, the only gripe I have with this car is that 5-speed transmission. I really feel like if they had put a 6-speed, it would benefit a lot more. Let me just show you what this sounds like. And 40. Now, don't get me wrong, no car is perfect. And knowing that the transmission on this car is not exactly the most spry thing out there, it doesn't really kill the deal. I really feel like a 6-speed could benefit this car, but the 5-speed is perfectly fine. And honestly, you don't really sacrifice gas mileage at all. I've had this car easily get 34, 35 miles to the gallon on the highway, and that just goes to show you that, you know, it doesn't always come down to the newest cars with the greatest technology and the motors that get you best gas mileage. Cars like this can do that as well. Definitely can benefit from an extra gear. So the real question is, why would you need a car like this? Why would you need to have an older car with some miles on it, with a little bit of the technology that you would want like this? Well, maybe you have a kid. Maybe he's starting to learn to drive, and you don't want to spend a lot of money on a brand new car or even a newer car. So you buy him something that's a little bit older, something that's reliable, something that's still safe, but also you can do something like what we've done with this car. Replace the radio in the car, give them Android Auto and Apple Carplay, the interface with their phone, because you know they're going to want that. They will want the touchscreen radio for that. And if you install a backup camera, at least you don't have to worry about them bumping into things all the time. And how is the sound of the car? Well, if you can't hear it, it's actually pretty quiet. The only thing I really hear is the tire noise. The little bit of tire noise that you get from this car. I mean, other than that, there's almost zero wind noise coming into this cabin. You can't hear the motor, and I'm doing almost 50 miles an hour right now, and this motor is dead silent. We're cruising at about 1500 RPM right now, so the motor is basically just idling along real good. Now let's say I want to get up and go all of a sudden. How's it going to be? Well, let's find out. Not too bad. It was pretty quick to shift down into third gear to give me enough speed to get up there. And honestly, it was pretty smooth. For that 5-speed transmission, that was a pretty smooth shift change. And the other thing about this car too, this actually has an 18-gallon fuel tank. 18 gallons at over 30 miles to the gallon. That's a long way on a tank. Now let's go over a few of the upgrades that have been done on this car. So like I mentioned before, we do have an aftermarket radio, and this is a 7-inch Kenwood touchscreen radio with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And what this means is that you can actually have full navigation in your car if it didn't come with it, and the ability to plug your phone in to interface with the radio, so you can stream music and other audio, and like I said before, your navigation. And because we have this big 7-inch screen in the dashboard, we were able to incorporate a rear view camera into the car for safety. Now the other thing that you gain from having an aftermarket head unit is actually USB ports. And what was done to hide these USB ports in this car, with a 12-volt receptacle was removed out of the dashboard here, and the USB ports were relocated down to this area, which is a really cool way and hidden way to put your USB ports in your car. This way you don't have wires dangling anywhere in your car for your USB. So what have we learned today? Well, we've learned that you can take an older vehicle and upgrade some of its components and turn it into a newer vehicle technologically. So with just a simple change of your radio, you were able to get Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, Sirius XM satellite, USB interface with your phones for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and also integrate a rear view camera system into the car. A fairly minor upgrade to the car, and doesn't take very much money to do that. So if you have an older car and you're interested in doing upgrades to it to make it better for technology, you can do a lot more with it than just changing out a radio. And if you're in the market for a used vehicle, why not consider the Mazda 6? Fun car to drive, very reliable, very safe. It's a good size vehicle for what you get. And as you can see, you can always upgrade it to get what you want out of it. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check us out at our website, techmotoring.com. facebook.com/techmotoring, or on Twitter @techmotoring. Thank you again for watching, and remember, welcome to the future and welcome to Tech Motoring. We'll see you on the next video.